to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story. Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a place where your mind can drift and wander until it gently settles into restful peace. As you settle in tonight, allow your eyes to grow heavy and your breathing to slow down, one soft exhale at a time. Imagine that you are cradled in a calm, comforting space. In this moment, there is nothing to solve and nothing to chase, only a warm invitation to let go. Very soon, you'll journey to a magical realm, a place of glowing lights and soft whispers known as the Faerie Lantern River. Let yourself sink deeper into this sense of tranquility as you prepare to be guided gently into a realm of shimmering wonders. Feel each breath glide smoothly in and out. Notice how your body becomes lighter with every bit of tension you release. As you rest, picture the gentle hush of a nighttime breeze rushing through tall grasses, a whisper that drifts over still water. Envision the air around you glowing with a soft luminescence. Let the day's worries slip behind you, carried away on the breeze, as your eyelids grow heavier with each breath. Allow the hush of your own heartbeat to guide you inward, where a calm, steady pool of comfort resides. In this peaceful state, you are merely a traveler on the cusp of a dreamy adventure. Here you may linger for as long as you wish, held by the softness of this moment. Invite your shoulders to relax, your mind to quiet, and your spirit to embrace the serenity that unfolds. This gentle introduction is simply a gateway. Soon the story will begin, and you will float into a realm beyond ordinary wakefulness, a realm where your awareness can softly release. Take one more long, slow breath and feel your entire body melt into rest. Now let us drift into the story of the Faerie Lantern River. Under the velvety cloak of twilight, a lone figure named Althea emerged from the border of the woods. The hush of a land under starlight welcomed her, and although her footprints on the soft, mossy ground made little noise, she sensed that the entire forest was listening. Within the stillness, every small sound held meaning, and beyond the ancient tree trunks, there was a distant, silvery glow, the gentle glimmer of the Faerie Lantern River. Althea had heard rumors of this place, whispered legends about a secret waterway that shone at night with the soft, dancing light of hidden fae creatures. It was said that only those with pure intention and a patient heart might discover it. Yet the nature of the river's glow was rarely explained in great detail. Some claimed floating orbs of light drifted along its surface. Others believed the river itself shimmered from within. No tale sounded exactly alike, and it was in that mystery that Althea felt a stirring of hope, as if she were about to uncover some benevolent secret woven into the forest's heart. As she moved deeper through the towering oaks, their branches canopied over her like comforting arms protecting a quiet path. Beneath her feet, the earth was soft, with layers of fallen leaves. The night carried a sweetness in the air, a mingling of dew and faint forest blooms. Althea lifted her gaze to the sky, where the last traces of dusk surrendered to a vast field of stars. She was no stranger to starlight, having spent many evening hours gazing upward from her own little cottage. But here in this old forest, the stars seemed closer, as though they gathered in silent reverence for the magical watercourse hidden among the trees. Every step brought her closer to a slight glow that wavered in the distance. Eventually, the forest began to thin, and she noticed fireflies dancing in the hush, their pale lights pulsing like tiny heartbeats. There was something tender in the way they moved, as if they sensed an old song pulsing through the earth beneath them. Following their luminous dance, Althea arrived at the water's edge. The river was calm, quiet, and nearly still. On its surface shone clusters of faint, ethereal lanterns, each one a pale sphere, drifting without haste. They gleamed like miniature moons floating in a gentle current. A reflection of the sky rippled across the water, creating a perfect mirror for the starlight overhead. Althea stood in awe at the sheer peace of that scene. The air felt weightless, the forest reverent. The moment she drew near, a light breeze brushed against her cheek, almost as though it were greeting her. A few of the lanterns bobbed, sending soft ripples out toward the shore. From somewhere nearby came the quiet rustle of leaves in a nighttime hush, perhaps the gentle flight of an owl or a passing deer, but otherwise there was calm, a warm hush that encouraged even the smallest sound to speak softly, kindly. Feeling a subtle pull, Althea knelt down to peer more closely at the glowing orbs. They were not ordinary lanterns made by human hands. Within each shimmering globe was a faint swirl of gold and silver, dancing as if alive. There was no flame or wick to be seen. Instead, there seemed to be a softly pulsing energy, like a living presence. Occasionally, one would flicker more brightly than the rest, and Althea imagined that in those quickening pulses, a tiny fairy or forest spirit might be winking at her. She reached out to the river's surface, fingertips skimming the cool water. The sensation brought a soothing hush to her senses. All around her, the night felt gentle, and the breathing of the forest sounded like a lullaby. As she settled into that serenity, she remembered stories told of travelers who came to the Faerie Lantern River seeking renewal. Those who touched the water, so the legend said, carried away a deeper sense of peace and calm, as though the light itself had a purifying grace. Althea closed her eyes, letting the faint glow wash gently over her spirit. A faint ripple in the water drew her attention. Something was gliding beneath the surface, gracefully weaving around the lanterns. It shimmered softly, then disappeared among the watery reflections. For a moment, Althea's heart quickened, but the feeling was not one of fear. Rather, it was a gentle curiosity, an invitation to follow. She picked up a fallen branch lying nearby, testing its weight, considering using it as a makeshift walking stick. However, something compelled her to leave it behind. The night's hush seemed to say there was no need. All was well here. The forest would guide her feet. Althea rose, following a narrow path that snaked along the riverbank. The light from the floating orbs highlighted the path in pale gold. In the hush of that timeless forest, she sensed that each step was in harmony with some ancient rhythm. She passed by tall cattails swaying at the water's edge, their silhouettes slender and elegant. Leaves whispered underfoot, a gentle chorus that accompanied her soft breathing. In time, the path led to a clearing where stones formed a natural shelf by the river, wide and flat enough to stand on. The water pooled here, forming a tranquil cove. Some of the lantern lights gathered in clusters, spinning slowly in lazy circles. Kneeling on the smooth stones, Althea watched how the orbs behaved, how they seemed drawn to certain spots along the water, as if guided by an unseen hand. And so her quiet exploration continued, with her meandering from one soft bend in the river to the next. Each turn revealed subtle differences, new patterns of drifting lights, new hushes in the forest canopy. The breeze never died but remained gentle, occasionally carrying the sweet fragrance of night-blooming flowers. Here and there, clusters of moonlit blossoms stood at the edges of the path, their petals soft and glowing in the faint shimmer. In these serene surroundings, time seemed to move as slowly as a drifting cloud. The forest offered an unspoken reassurance, a comforting sense that there was no rush, no urgent place to be. Gradually, Althea became aware of an odd yet delightful sound, like tiny chimes ringing far away. At first, she thought it might be the gentle swish of the river or the faint rustle of overhead branches. But it didn't take long for her to realize that these chimes grew louder as she moved farther downstream. It was a high, sweet tone that resonated in her chest, as if it were part of a lullaby. Intrigued, she followed the sound deeper along the water's edge, the faint glow lighting her way. Further downstream, the river widened into a lagoon, fringed by clusters of soft grass and low-hanging branches. The lantern lights here were more numerous, floating in drifting clusters that gave the impression of an illuminated mosaic. And as Althea drew close, she could see the source of the chiming, tiny winged shapes dancing in the pale aura above the water. Their wings looked like iridescent petals, and each time one fluttered, a faint chime-like note seemed to ring out, blending together into a soothing melody. These were the fairies the legends spoke of, gentle forest spirits who shepherded the lantern lights along the water. Their forms were small and delicate, each wearing robes woven of moonlit threads. Their hair shimmered like spun silver, and tiny dust motes followed them like glittering echoes. Several rose in graceful spirals, weaving around each other as if in a slow, peaceful waltz. Others swooped low to the water's surface, tapping the lantern lights here and there, sending the spheres bobbing in playful circles. Althea's heart softened at the sight. So often, stories about fairies told of mischief or trickery, but these beings radiated only warmth. Their movements were gentle, unhurried, as if they had all the time in the world. She observed them with a feeling of reverence, her spirit lightened by their presence. Now and then, one of the tiny figures paused in midair to glance in her direction, acknowledging her presence not with words, but with a subtle glow that shimmered through the night. Eventually, she found a broad, smooth rock near the water's edge, where she could sit quietly without intruding upon the fairies' realm. From there, she watched the slow, dreamlike spectacle, content simply to exist in that tranquil place. If she listened closely, she could hear faint, tinkling giggles woven among the chimes. The sound was neither loud nor startling. It was the kind of laughter that rises from pure wonder, echoing kindly through the hush. She wondered what purpose these illuminated orbs served and why they drifted so serenely. Perhaps they carried the wishes of travelers or memories of the forest's ancient past. Or maybe they simply existed to bring beauty to the night. The more Althea watched, the more her own thoughts softened, her concerns and cares dissolving into the pastel glow of the water. Time itself felt irrelevant. The night stretched on like a comforting blanket, secure and endless. At one point, a fairy with softly glimmering wings approached her, hovering at a respectful distance. Its large, curious eyes reflected silver starlight, and in the pale glow, Althea thought she glimpsed a kind but cautious welcome. She smiled, moving with gentle slowness, ensuring her motions wouldn't disturb it. The fairy raised one tiny hand as if beckoning her closer to the river's edge. Slowly, carefully, Althea obliged, leaning forward and placing her palm against the water. Immediately, a mild warmth spread across her fingertips, a soothing sensation akin to a gentle embrace. The fairy glided closer, tapping the surface of one of the orbs so that it drifted near Althea's hand. She watched in wonder as the sphere pulsed with a new brightness, momentarily reflecting the swirling constellations above. It seemed to glow in response to her presence. Then, with another soft chime, the fairy dipped away, fluttering along the river's surface, tracing faint patterns in the water. Althea felt as though she had been blessed by a small piece of woodland magic, something that opened her heart and invited her to rest more fully in the night's serenity. Drawn onward by the gentle current, Althea rose from her sitting place, following the path as it curved around the lagoon. There were times when the forest thickened, branches arching overhead in a leafy tunnel. Here and there, silver moonlight filtered through the canopy, creating shifting pools of light on the ground. She passed moss-covered logs and clusters of mushrooms that glowed faintly in the presence of the Lantern River's light. Tiny insects glimmered, reflecting the sphere's gentle illumination. Eventually, the path guided her to a glen with a wide-open view of the night sky. Here the river formed a gentle bend, and a small stone bridge arched across the water. The structure was ancient yet sturdy, overgrown with soft green vines. The lantern lights drifted below the stone arch, each orb sliding gracefully beneath the bridge's curved silhouette. It was a sight of quiet beauty, as if the bridge itself were an old sentinel, witnessing centuries of glowing currents beneath its arch. Althea stepped onto the bridge, pausing in the middle to lean on the stone railing. From this vantage point, she could watch the lanterns float closer, pass under her feet, and continue around the bend. The air seemed to hold its breath. The hum of insects, the faint trickle of water along smooth rocks, the gentle flap of a distant night bird's wings. All these sounds wove together into a lullaby for the midnight hour. She let herself linger, letting the hush wrap around her like a warm blanket, until the gentle heaviness of contentment settled over her heart. While standing on the bridge, she noticed how the lantern lights illuminated the undersides of the tree branches, casting faint silhouettes of leaves against the night sky. Each pattern was delicate, forming shapes that shifted and fluttered in the mild breeze. There was a soothing harmony to the interplay of light and shadow, a reminder that even in darkness, glimmers of beauty can be found. A sense of calm filled Althea's thoughts, yet she was still curious about the path ahead. So she continued across the bridge, noticing how the stones beneath her feet gave off a gentle warmth, as though touched by the river's magic. On the far side, the forest opened into a broad meadow, dotted with soft silver flowers that seemed to glow under the starlight. The river meandered alongside the meadow's edge, casting pale reflections on the tall grasses that swayed in a slow, dreamlike rhythm. She could see more of the fairies in the distance, tending to the lantern lights that drifted this way and that like drifting stars set loose upon the water. In the meadow, the grasses whispered secrets of the wind. Small creatures, likely rabbits or hedgehogs, rustled about, occasionally peeking out to observe Althea. Not wanting to disturb them, she took slow, quiet steps. The tension in her body had long since faded, replaced by a tender sense of wonder. It was a space to breathe, a place to simply be. If she listened with her heart, she could sense a gentle hum in the air, a resonance that felt like a lullaby flowing through the land. She wandered until she came upon a cluster of old willow trees, their slender branches dangling gracefully into the river. Here the lantern lights collected, bobbing beneath the arch of drooping branches, casting shifting patterns on the trunk and roots of the trees. A few fairies flitted among the leaves, as though guiding travelers to pause and rest in the sheltered nook. Drawn by the tranquility, Althea found a mossy patch where she settled herself, leaning against one of the willows. The ground was soft beneath her, the moss thick and springy. The tree's trunk supported her gently, almost as if it cradled her. In that quiet repose, she let her gaze drift over the scene. Time seemed suspended. The The night sky above stretched endlessly, sprinkled with stars that shimmered in tandem with the lantern lights below. The faeries' occasional chiming drifted in and out of hearing, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the hush of softly flowing water. A sense of restfulness enveloped Althea, as though the forest itself was lulling her into a peaceful doze. She could have stayed forever in that dreamy glow. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, feeling the soft rise and fall of her own breath, the warmth in the air, the faint fragrance of night flowers, and the gentle lull of moving water lulled her deeper. When she opened her eyes again, she noticed a faint shape drifting across the river, a creature that glided with silent elegance, shimmering gently in the water. It was too graceful to be an ordinary fish. It had an ethereal sheen, almost translucent. She watched it with quiet fascination, feeling as though she had glimpsed yet another secret of the river's magic. The being swam near the lantern lights, occasionally nudging them, sending a ripple of chimes through the air. The meadow itself seemed alive with subtle luminescence. Small clusters of mushrooms glowed softly, forming little circles that dotted the forest floor. The silver flowers swaying in the breeze seemed to sing silently, as if their petals held a gentle melody. Everything was in harmony, woven together by a tapestry of moonlight and starlight, shimmering water, and the ancient hush of the woodland night. From her comfortable spot against the willow, Althea thought of those who might never see such a place, who might never believe in the existence of a river glowing under midnight's watchful stars. In that moment, she felt gratitude for the hush that had led her here, for the forest that welcomed her so kindly, and for the sense of peace blossoming in her chest. She wished she could share this feeling with every weary heart in the world. As the night wore on, the gentle flow of the river seemed to deepen in color, turning a shade of soft cobalt, while the lantern lights burned with a richer gold. The forest began to hum with a gentle, steady energy, as if coaxing all living things to rest. Even the fairies' laughter softened, and their once vibrant dancing grew languid, as though they too succumbed to the lull of the late hour. Some perched on the backs of broad leaves, wings folded gently, their silver hair falling across their tiny faces. In the hush of those moments, Althea gazed over the water, letting her mind float free. The subtle wonders of the place lulled her into a meditative stillness. She realized that her journey to the Faerie Lantern River had never been about seeking grand revelations or solving any mystery. It was, in truth, an invitation to accept the serenity of the present moment, to surrender to a gentle enchantment, the living glow of the lanterns, the hush of the fairies, and the embrace of the ancient trees carried a reminder that peace could be found in the simplest of wonders. She rose once more, following the lantern-lit path through the meadow until it guided her back into a quieter section of forest. The trees here were slender birches, their white bark shimmering under moonlight. The grass underfoot was soft, and tiny blossoms that thrived in the shade gave off a delicate perfume. Occasionally, a shimmering orb drifted near the riverbank, casting gentle reflections on the smooth birch trunks. The air felt comforting, a mild warmth that suggested the presence of unseen guardians, guiding her steps with a kindly hand. A clearing opened to her on the forest's far edge, a natural circle lined by stones that formed a seating area of sorts. Within this circle, the river slowed even further, almost forming a pond. The floating lanterns gathered thickly here, and their glow illuminated a natural mosaic of pebbles at the water's floor. Althea approached the edge, and on a smooth boulder, she discovered a place to rest. She settled there, allowing her feet to dangle just above the water. The orbs drifted lazily by, bathing her legs in a pale glow. Unhurried, she trailed her fingertips through the water again. The sensation was still soothing, and each ripple she created made the lantern lights bob in playful unison. Above her, the canopy thinned, revealing a grand sweep of sky studded with stars. She took a slow breath, letting her eyelids close, appreciating the gentle quiet. This place welcomed drowsiness, encouraged each exhalation to release tension into the night air. When Althea's eyes drifted open, she found she wasn't alone. A pair of sleepy-looking faeries perched on a nearby stone, watching her with mild, curious expressions. One gave a soft chime, something akin to a greeting. There was no fear in their gaze, only gentle acceptance. In response, Althea offered a small smile, feeling the hush settle deeper in her bones. The fairies nodded in a slow, drowsy way, as though satisfied with the silent exchange. Then they fluttered off, leaving a faint, silvery trail in the air behind them. Althea continued to sit, feeling time dissolve into the soft whispers of water, the subdued glint of starlight, and the subtle pulse of her own breathing. The night around her was not silent in emptiness. Rather, it was a symphony of hushed tones, breezes through leaves, distant chimes of fairy wings, the gentle ripple of lantern lights. All these small sounds blended into a lullaby that stirred her deeper into tranquility. Her mind drifted to a memory of childhood, glimpses of her grandmother's voice, telling tales of hidden glades and mystical creatures. Perhaps those old stories had been seeds planted in Althea's heart, guiding her here. She felt a wave of comfort in that thought, as if all the magic and tenderness she'd once imagined as a child had found form in this place. Here at the Faerie Lantern River, hush and light danced hand in hand, gently encouraging every traveler to rest. Eventually, the gentle weight of drowsiness grew, wrapping Althea in a peaceful heaviness. She allowed herself to lean back, bracing against the boulder's smooth surface. Her eyes wandered over the surface of the water, where the orbs floated in a companionable gathering. They reminded her of friends, huddled around a quiet campfire, each one contributing its own soft glow to the group. The reflection of stars above merged with the lights below, creating a bridge of luminescence that connected sky and river. In the quiet, it was easy to believe that the entire forest slumbered in a gentle dream. And in that dream, everything was safe, every creature tucked into the comforting hush of the night. Perhaps the river had always been a sanctuary, a healing tide that any weary traveler could stumble upon if their heart longed for true rest. Perhaps the fairies were caretakers of that tranquility, ensuring the glow remained pure and unbroken. It was a soothing thought, and as Althea sat there, lulled by the hush, she found her entire being settling into perfect ease. Softly, a wave of gentle calm washed over her, as though the river itself was singing a lullaby meant only for her. She thought of home, of her cozy cottage on the edge of the forest, of the warm blankets and the flicker of hearth flames. Strangely, though, a part of her felt more at home here than anywhere else. The hush of the forest carried the same warmth that a crackling fire might hold, a soothing presence that asked nothing but offered everything. The lantern lights drifted in slow, unhurried spirals guided by the delicate gestures of half-dozing fairies. A sense of reverence lay across the forest, an acknowledgement that the hours of midnight were to be cherished, not rushed. Now and then, a drowsy bird called out in a single, tranquil note, as if reminding the night to breathe. Each time the forest responded with the faint rustle of leaves, echoing the nighttime lullaby. As the hours passed, Althea's thoughts grew simpler, each idea gently dissolving into the present moment. She found herself nearly drifting off, lulled by the warmth and the subtle hush. If she listened carefully, she could almost hear the ancient heartbeat of the forest, steady and enduring, pulsing with the flow of the river. In that heartbeat, there was a promise of rest, renewal, and gentle transformation. She rose slowly, her eyes half lidded with contentment, and walked a little further along the path. The forest guided her with quiet compassion, each step cushioned by soft, damp earth. The lantern river glowed at her side, an unwavering companion through the thickening hush of night. Now the path seemed to lead her in a meandering circle, gently bringing her back toward the place where she first stepped onto the banks, as if completing a soothing ritual. The oak trees loomed tall once again, ancient guardians of the forest. The silver glow of the lantern lights threaded through the gaps in their leaves, dancing like faint firelight on their trunks. Althea's footsteps slowed as she realized she'd returned to the spot where her journey began, the place where she first saw the shimmering orbs drifting along the water. And in returning, she sensed that she was not the same as when she started. A new warmth glowed within her, a peace that the gentle waters had nurtured. The night was deep, and the hush whispered of rest. Althea stood there breathing in the lingering fragrance of dew-kissed leaves and starry sky. She rested a palm on the trunk of a nearby oak as if to offer thanks, The tree's bark was sturdy under her hand, a reminder of how old and enduring the forest was. In that moment, she felt quietly connected to everything. The lights on the river, the fairies hidden among the branches, the silent hush of the world around her. With gratitude blooming in her chest, Althea closed her eyes and let the hush cradle her. Eventually she would find her way back along the forest's edge, returning to her own cozy home. But for now she simply reveled in the enchantment of the Faerie Lantern River. She took one last look at the water, saw how the lantern lights moved gracefully downstream, and imagined them guiding other travelers to a similar peace. The hour is late, and the glow of the lantern lights softens as though dimming gently for slumber. Let yourself drift in the hush, letting any lingering thoughts fade away. The forest is hushed. The fairies have danced their slow, graceful waltz, and the moon casts its final serene beams on the lapping waters. This is the time for true rest, a time to surrender to the gentle pull of sleep. Feel the softness surrounding you, as though a warm, weightless blanket has been laid across your shoulders. There is no hurry here, only a calm invitation to let your body grow heavy. Your eyelids become soft. As the night's lullaby continues its subtle, reassuring tune, allow yourself to be carried by it, floating with the same gentle ease as the lanterns on the water. Breathe in, letting the sweet night air fill your lungs. Breathe out, releasing all that might hold you back. Let your mind settle on the image of the river. Visualize its soothing glow, the slow dance of fairies in the quiet, and the graceful arcs of ancient branches guarding the calm waters below. If a thought should rise up, gently watch it drift away, like a leaf carried downstream on a gentle current. With each soft exhale, your body sinks deeper into rest, guided by the persistent hush. Peace surrounds you now. Let the memory of the forest's hush envelop your senses. Let your breath match the calm, steady rhythm of flowing water, and feel your thoughts settle into the softness of the night. Embrace the comfort that lingers and know that you are safe, cocooned in the warm glow of gentle enchantment. In this tranquil space, let your dreams unfurl, woven with the warmth of the lantern lights, guided by the gentle spirit of the forest. Good night, dear traveler. May the Faerie Lantern River's soothing glow guide you toward the sweetest of dreams. Sleep well.